Hey, good afternoon. Welcome, and we'll get started here. I'm Rose Lee with the A2 Collective Coordinating Center. We're excited to introduce you to the Entrepreneur in Residence program launched by LeadingAge National, a Washington, D.C. based trade association representing over 5,000 nonprofit senior living communities and aging service providers. This program allows entrepreneurs, innovators, and organizations that are developing solutions for older adults and aging services to live in a senior community for a few weeks. We're really excited about this opportunity, and we're delighted that Mike Hughes, the VP of Strategic Growth and Partnership for LeadingAge National, has opened this opportunity up to members of the A2 Collective. As of this morning, we had 20 people registered for this, so there was definitely interest from 15 or so states. We'll first hear an overview from Mike and then from two past program participants, Peter Elbaor, founder and CEO of Ayla AI, and Alec Glassman, founder and CEO of SilverShield, with time at the end for questions. Mike, I'll let you take it away.
Rose, thank you so much. And really, thank you so much for the opportunity to present this to the A2 Collective community. I have been attending the A2 events for the past 3 or 4 years now and have not only been impressed with the projects that are being developed out of the community, but also the fellowship that I find in the community. I just know that the people on this call really do have a very mission-focused approach to serving older adults, to serving aging services, and all the more reason why we really wanted to prioritize you guys to introduce this opportunity to. So, as Rose said, I'm going to spend some time going through the program, and then I'm going to open it up with Peter and Alec, who did the program, to talk about their experiences and what the value they got out of it. So here we go. I think I'm doing this right. Okay, here we go. Take note of my email so you can reach out to me for interest. You'll see that at the end. But essentially, just as Rose said, this is a program that is meant to pair people who are innovating and developing solutions in the aging or longevity space with member communities that would like to host them for an experience. So Rose mentioned we have over 5,300 communities across the country. They're mostly nonprofit senior living communities. And we also represent nonprofit aging services like hospice, home health, PACE, that sort of thing. It is a live-in experience, which gives you the opportunity to shadow staff roles, make friends with the residents, and then test any ideas or hypotheses or assumptions that you have with the people that you aim to serve. Generally, we offer this at 3 levels. The first one is more fellowship, where maybe somebody knows they want to develop something in the space, but they want to sort of look at the current state of affairs in order to help inform what they might offer and focus on a particular area. We do this with students visiting fellows in senior living all the time. Something that's a little more foundational is something that pretty much we do most often, which is people with early stage products that are looking to refine the offerings, refine part of the offerings. And then we even have room for more developmental programs where if you have a product that is in market and you are looking to do version 2.0, or you're looking to iterate for a longer period of time than the standard 2-week program, these are things that we can help shape with you. This is some things that we can match make with you on. So think about 30, 60, 90-day living lab experiences or a continuous presence in a LeadingAge member community. We started this program from my old job, so I'm new to LeadingAge, all of 4 months, but for the past 4 years, I was the head of innovation and transformation at United Church Homes, which is a large member community, have about 100 different properties. And I started this at our Marietta, Ohio location that you'll see in a second. But really, this is a human-centered program. 2 principles that guide this program: fall in love with the solution fall in love with the problem that you're trying to solve before developing a solution, and really co-create those solutions with those you aim to serve. I love this photo of Alec, who's on the call, who's doing design charrettes with our residents. I personally have done the Entrepreneur in Residence program a couple of times. I've taught human-centered design and led human-centered design programs. What I have found, and what I think Alec and Peter have also found, is that, I will do these types of co-creation exercises with people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. We've done them with people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. The creativity and the quality of the idea is just the same. Creativity never dies. I think that's a really, really hopeful thing. So as of April 2026, we've had 10 EIRs so far at United Church Homes. Now we're scaling it nationally. But, we don't have a set boundary around what innovation means. We've done everything from incontinence solutions and skilled nursing to AI voice companions to solutions to prevent fraud and scams to interactive poetry. And the residents just love having sort of people coming through the doors every couple of months or so to test their innovations. I mean, they really are strong partners. The way the program is run and how we're modeling our standard program is it's a 2-week program. It's flexible. I mean, but generally week 1, you're job shadowing. You're making friends with the residents. And then week 2, it's kind of more self-guided discovery and research. In the case of United Church Homes, in the case of many of our member communities, these are life plan communities where maybe you start in a cottage and then you'll go live in an apartment in the independent living center. Then we have assisted living, then we have skilled nursing, then we have memory care. So you could design this program so that you're job shadowing in every one of those levels of care. I actually kind of recommend that you do that. Or you can focus yourself on a particular area. But one day you might be shadowing dining. The next day you might be shadowing nursing rounds in assisted living. The next day you might be doing maintenance. But all through it, you're interacting with the residents. You're eating with them. You can participate in their activities. If you want to lead an activity or do an information session, great. But, through that, you build those relationships and then you can do interviews, then you can do workshops, all of the things. And that's all facilitated by the member community. We have a number of, this is growing, by the way, but at the time we have locations really going to be around the country. I mean, you see a sample here. Most are life plans. Some are a little bit nuanced, like Byron Health. They specialize in residents who have mental health issues. So, and also they house IDD, people with Down syndrome, who may not have guardians and things like that. But these are residents that may have anxiety or depression. So if that's a particular focus for you, that's a match. But everybody else, they're all a little bit different, but they're all, very innovative, and they very much embrace a human-centered design outlook. The way the program works, I love this slide picture, by the way, that Peter gave us, because it really shows that, how you integrate in the community. There's at 11 o'clock it's share volleyball, and 1 o'clock it's Meet Peter and generative AI, and at 2:30 music's coming in. But you submit an application to participate, which really kind of gives me your hypothesis for why you think this program might benefit you. And then at the very end of the program, you submit just a report in any style you want to the community, saying, hey, did I find out what I was going to find out, or what surprised me the most? You'll have a background check. We kind of treat you like a volunteer, where they kind of do a test. They make sure you're not an axe murderer. And then you usually sign like a business associate agreement, because you may want to go into a resident's apartment, or you might see some personal information. Some people charge rent for the guest suite. Some people don't. I haven't, but for some guest suites, there's an opportunity cost, like families like to stay in them and things like that. But generally, you work that out with the community. Let me just go on to another slide here. And then it really is a win-win-win. The communities love this because it's outside eyes looking in. You comment on their culture, operations, you show how your own solution has grown. There's great storytelling here. I mean, I want pictures from all of these EIR experiences. At LeadingAge, we want to tell the story of your experience. We want to showcase senior living as a place where you can do innovation. And we also want to show residents of senior living as innovative people. You know, one of our big missions at LeadingAge is combating ageism. And I'll tell you, it's after doing human-centered design programs, living in community and so on. I mean, a lot of the tropes about old people and technology, you can throw those out the window. And then it's just really just all the fellowship thing. Because we are a nonprofit, because we are mission oriented, we really do look for opportunities for staff to showcase their good works. I mean, Alec and Peter can talk about Glenwood and how the staff work with them, but I know that, you know, they really appreciate seeing what goes on every single day in senior living. And this is why it's foundational for participants, because you understand why it can be so hard to innovate in healthcare, in post-acute care, and in senior living. You'll understand that you don't really know what's going to get thrown at you every single day when you walk through those doors. But it's also just a great way to get to know the residents as peers and to really understand their lived experience and to really enjoy it. I mean, I had dinner with a couple that have been married for 80 years. You know, they're both 99. They met in high school. They live in independent living. They drive down to the McDonald's every single day to have coffee with their friends. I mean, they stick with me, as do a number of the other residents. So it really does, you know, I just can't. I mean, I really got a lot of it out of the program personally. So let's see what else we got here. All right. We talked about different roles and responsibilities. We talked about the initial application. You have to find your way there. You have to pass the background check. If there's any required costs, you pay it directly to the member organization. I don't get involved in that. But, you know, obviously goes without saying, you have to be professional and respectful, but importantly, you can't sell anything. This is not an opportunity for sales. And you also can't assume that the participating member community is going to pilot your thing or buy your thing at the end. You know, this is really that problem first approach versus sort of trying to project what you may have already into the community. Because as an example, the residents will always want to buy your thing. At Glenwood, we had several residents that are on Medicaid, although we don't tell anybody else they're on Medicaid, but they may want to buy something. You see how it creates kind of difficult kind of things for us. And again, the spirit of the program is really that discovery. Let me find out more about the problem I'm really trying to address. And then you're sharing the insights and stories with the executive director, share stories with me. And then for us, our members, essentially how I work this is that as my applications come through, I just send it to the group of communities that are involved. I have an orientation call with them where I introduce each of these things, and it's really first come, first served. I will do selected one-on-one, kind of like, oh my gosh, you'd be perfect for this community, you'd be perfect for that community. I will do that. And they do have profile forms on their community, so you'll get to know about them. But what happens is you put an application in, I do an interview with you, I then use that, I put it into the rotation. If there's a hit, if there's a match, I'm saying, hey guys, you know, we have a match, are you interested? We do that that Zoom call. And then from there, you guys kind of like work it from there. So, and then I think I just said everything that I did on this next slide here. Exactly. So, and then we have the PR and communication stuff that we're going to be doing. This is my content. So the way that this works, and Rose, you know, can distribute the slides and all that. If you're interested in the program, send an email to me. I will send you an overview, including an application form. And then when you return that application form to me, then we'll set up time for a chat. So that's how it's going to work. And to bring the program to life a little bit more, we are now going to turn it over to Peter and to Alec. And they can share some of their perspectives. So I don't know, Peter, do you want to go first?
Sure. Thanks, Mike. I think you excellent overview. One thing that, as you were describing this, one thing that well, let me introduce myself. So Peter Elbaor, founder and CEO of Ayla AI. We broadly build kind of vaguely hand we say AI-based solutions for the aging services ecosystem. And my relationship to the A2 collaborative was this the conference at Pennsylvania at Penn was actually my first kind of introduction to the aging services ecosystem, and it really kind of opened my eyes to the opportunity out there and the problem that we as innovators have to help older adults age with independence and dignity. So my experience was at Glenwood, and Mike made this happen. And one thing that kind of struck me is, this I wouldn't treat this experience as a grant writing exercise. You don't need to show up with the perfect statement of specific aims or a fully kind of buttoned evidence package of supporting work to kind of justify it. The point that I think Mike was making, at least with the fellowship and the foundational area phase of inquiry, is this is a chance to expose your assumptions to like kind of real environments, real residents, families, staff, um, and kind of ask yourself, like, not to get answers, but to make sure you're asking questions, the right questions, I think. Really kind of the way I was thinking about it is, it's not to lower the standard of information you're gathering, but it's to improve the quality of the questions before you start building evidence around it, I guess. One thing that also kind of came up as I was thinking about this, and Mike, I'd be curious for your perspective, would the EIR program or going to one of the communities, could that potentially be a study site for any A2 participants? I mean, it would have lower indirects than at a university maybe, and that might be a good thing for some of the participants.
Yeah, and that's something we can definitely explore, Peter. Yeah, definitely. Because again, what we aspire to do is to create more innovation centers in senior living. And if this is something, if this introduction or this sort of, if this can start a relationship, it might evolve into that living lab, that might evolve into sort of a more formalized sort of testing relationship. Absolutely. We have a couple of people doing that. But we want to see more of that in the world.
Cool.
And Peter, just you think about, because I remember you were very foundational as you sort of came in with the idea behind Ayla, and what I've noticed with what you have been doing is that you sort of started in one place and landed in another, and
Yeah.
you're able to kind of like consider sort of some adjacencies with that. What do you think kind of triggered that? Because I think you spent a lot of time in skilled nursing.
We did.
Did you find skilled nursing kind of the most fascinating part of the mix, or?
So I had found, I actually did find skilled nursing the most fascinating part, but it the least kind of applicable to some of the ideas I was exploring initially. And I think that contrast is what made this so interesting. So for context, what Mike is alluding to, kind of my professional background is in ambient AI and kind of well, generative AI now. And we had developed some rudimentary technology to kind of passively listen to conversations and then apply just-in-time interventions. And the idea was, hey, is there a like a kind of an MCI population that might benefit from little kind of nudges, just-in-time nudges to help with their IADLs? And what we learned very quickly in the assisted living context was that nothing, that we were developing was a reasonable substitute for kind of the quality of care that, human caregivers can provide. And that, but what that did, it kind of helped us close that door in our assessment, our kind of our feasibility assessment. But it opened up a number of adjacent doors because as we were there, we went into the skilled nursing section of Glenwood. And we also just kind of we're in the lobby listening to conversations between residents and families, and discovered that there were a number of kind of much more specific verticalized applications of this kind of technology. So for example, one of them was in the morning stand-up meetings that staff have, and the need there was to help uh, basically kind of codify all of the implicit knowledge that these staff members were sharing about, what had occurred in the last 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever. Like, oh, Mrs. So and so had a soft fall, but she was fine, and assessed her, and no issue. Or a family member called about this type of concern, and that's going to need to be addressed in the next shift, things like that. And then on the skilled, that was on the skilled side. And then in the kind of the community-based areas, so where the family members were engaging with residents, as I said, we were just kind of here. I was hearing just random conversations, and one of the topics of conversation that was constantly coming up was about medical visits and like what had happened. Family members would be talking to the director of nursing, they'd be talking to the resident, trying to gather pieces, the missing pieces, to understand the whole picture and continuity of care. And so that's another application of where our technology began to kind of take form, basically helping capture and make sense of kind of the many number of medical visits that older adults have to engage with.
And I just to plus up on your point, Peter, before we go over to Alec, I mean, through my experience with the program, I was sitting in that chair next to a family member when the director's explaining an event that might have happened, like a fall, or trying to understand someone's change in condition, and your opportunity to sort of like improve the coaching to that, to improve the clarity of that. I mean, that's such an important and very human experience that happens, and to train people up to do that, to benchmark against that, you're definitely sort of identified an area of real need. So, Alec, can you share a little bit about your experience with the Entrepreneur in Residence program?
I love my experience in the Entrepreneur in Residence program. It was the foundation of all of the sort of development and success that we've been able to have, but more importantly, just like shaped me as a person a lot, which was really cool. Like as I look back and reflect on my time at Glenwood, um, I mean, I also obviously echo everything that Peter said, because we've talked about this a lot, and I fully agree with all of his sort of experiences and takeaways. For me, it was this mix of probably like 30% was validating core hypotheses we had before we could go out and like go scale for real. But I think the 70% was way more important, which was just listening to people and learning about life. And before I went to Glenwood, I was at this conference with all of these folks that work at area agencies on aging, and I was talking to this woman who had been a case manager for maybe 25 years. And I'm like, I'm about to go live in a senior living community in rural Ohio for 2 weeks. Like, do you have any tips? Like, any suggestions? Like, how do you approach this? It was not something that was in my wheelhouse. And she was very direct. And she was just like, ask them their story and then stop talking. Which, as you all can probably glean from just me talking for a few minutes, the stop talking part can be challenging for me. But I took that advice, and everyone that I spoke to, I was kind of just like, "Hi, nice to meet you. What's your story?" Like, I didn't tell them what I was doing or what I was focusing on. Like sometimes they would ask, and then I would tell them, but I really just used the 2 weeks to just learn. Um, and that was an incredible experience because it really you learn about ageism, you hear it, you realize it's everywhere. It's a very, very different thing to go live with people who are older adults who are not your family and just get that perspective. Because you realize very, very quickly that people are just people and people care about independence and they care about purpose. And you look around a lot of the developments in the age tech space, whatever age tech means these days, and you're like, yeah, I'm not surprised that that product isn't being adopted very well. Like, did they ever spend time with an older adult? Like, it's crazy. So I think that the perspective that you will get on life is the greatest takeaway from that experience. I could talk way more about my learnings there, but like that's number one. And number two, as a bonus, it's nice to walk away with some hard validations or invalidations of core hypotheses because we are working on building products and we're starting businesses, and you have to do that too.
Importantly, Alec, what are you building? Tell us about SilverShield.
Oh yeah. So we're an anti-scam platform. We make it really easy for folks to spot and stop scams and fraud. And so the genesis of this was I lived in a retirement community with my folks for 2 months. I looked around, I realized all of my preconceptions for like how to solve this problem were completely backwards. And I realized that very, very quickly living in a retirement community. And so I started building this other solution. I ran into Mike at the ASA conference. I showed him a really crappy prototype and he's like, "You need to live at Glenwood." And I said, "Okay." And we shook hands. And 4 months later, I was in Marietta, Ohio. And it really was a turning point for us.
Alec, what I love about what you're doing is that, you really, took the time with Glenwood to talk about their experience with scams and fraud, you got to really kind of, gather what that felt like with them. And I know from seeing you at conference since then, I mean, you use the quotes to really do refer back
Yeah.
to those folks SilverShield is really strongly growing. And I think that, you really, all I can say is that it really supports your authenticity of what you're presenting and really your mission-driven approach to this thing. So I just think that I don't think that just sort of, I don't know. I think you just naturally do it, but I think just by bringing those voices to life, it really just helps strengthen the association with what you're now offering.
Yeah, but like even any sort of age tech product, like it's the same deal, right? The second you say you're doing something and you're thinking about trying to help older adults, people are immediately going to be thinking of the most biased version of what they think an older adult is in their head and what that person needs immediately. And they're going to be discounting every single thing that you're saying, every solution you're bringing to the table. They're going to be comping to this version of an older adult they have in their head. And it's usually again a biased ageist version, and they're going to tell you all the reasons why you're wrong and why it won't work. And like being able to reference stories, anecdotes, quotes from people is a really powerful thing because it makes the picture very, very clear for people. And they say, "Oh, I didn't think about it like that." And like for us, one of my favorite quotes that I share all the time is this one woman said, "I just want a buffer I can go to before I go to my son." Like that was her big thing with scams. And it's so interesting because it captures so much in just one sentence where it's like there's emotional complexities there and there's a commentary on independence and there's a commentary on people wanting to deal with these things themselves and maybe shame and embarrassment related to scams and fraud and all this stuff. And like one quote from one person, I share that, and then people look at our solution and they're like, "Oh, okay, I get it now." And it totally breaks down that ageist wall. So I agree with you, Mike, that like rooting everything in real stories and real people is a very powerful thing. And I also think that it helps break down some ageist preconceptions that you often face when building in this space.
Rose, I think we got, and that's I think we can open it up for questions from the audience now.
Yes.
Yeah,
Anyone has
absolutely.
any questions? Mike, maybe you can speak a little bit about if somebody applies, how long does a decision take and how much, or,
Yeah. So we're just kind of ramping up now. The communities, we just introduced this to our membership back in April, and we're sort of setting up things in May, and now we're ready to kind of really start taking applications now. I've already got some applications in. Some communities are quick, some communities are not. But generally, when you send me an application within, if you send me an email, I'm going to immediately send you the application form. You send me the application within a week or two, we're going to be meeting. And then from there, it's in the mix. And it could be quick, it could be not. We're still kind of like feeling this out. But generally, our members are prepared to do this every month if we have applicants coming in. I mean, I already have one member that's going to do 2 of them, late summer and into fall. You work out with the community when you'd like to actually come, and the community may have some times where they cannot accommodate people, like during Christmas when families may come to stay. But generally, it could take a few months. But what will happen is I will send you an email saying, hey, I've got a potential match for you. Still interested? Then we go into the meet and greet process.
Thanks, Mike. And I think we have a question from Nippon.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for hosting this. Question for the 2 gentlemen who've been through the program. Could you share an example of a hypothesis that was validated and one that was invalidated by your time in residence?
So for me, a quick one that comes to mind, we had to test usability quite a bit for our offering. So we're based over text message and email. And so it was just a really nice thing to validate that, in fact, people, for the most part, know how to text and know how to email. And like, it's not shocking to me that that's the case. But again, having stories to back that up, like I tell people the story of I sat in a room with a couple for an hour and a half teaching them how to do bookmarks on Chrome. But when it came time to onboard with SilverShield and try it out, totally fine. And I can tell that story with confidence, and it captures a lot of why and how that hypothesis was validated, but also people believe it, which is really important because it's true. In terms of what was like invalidated, I mean, it was more like sharpening other parts of our messaging. I think sharpening parts of our value proposition where I had been like talking about it, but it wasn't tight enough. I think the biggest functional learnings we had were less about hypotheses and more like actually tweaking onboarding like, in real time. Like every night, I would get back and talk to my CTO and be like, I just watched someone go through this walkthrough, and here's exactly what happened, and here's where they're getting tripped up, and here's what we could never possibly imagine unless you're like looking over a user's shoulder. And so like that was really helpful. And so it's not exactly invalidating a hypothesis, but it's noticing like micro adjustments to an experience that could actually make it way better pretty quickly. So that was good. Peter, what do you got?
I was thinking about this. So, I maybe I didn't articulate this clearly. We did not come with explicit hypotheses, right? Like, as I said, this is not the type of program where you have a statement of specific aims that, are supposed to build on each other. This is much more fundamental, kind of lived experience style discovery. And I think that is an important distinction to make, because what that allowed me to do, I'm relatively new to the industry still, but certainly at the time, I wouldn't have made intelligent hypotheses. And so this experience gave me that initial foundation in order to make more intelligent hypotheses down the road. Like one example that, kind of continues to stick with me is like the tension between older adults who, with respect to kind of agency. Like I heard a number of stories from folks who were like, yeah, I really want to be here, kind of sarcastically rolling their eyes, and sad that, or expressing dismay that they're living in a community, but at the same time, they knew it was the right move. And so, that kind of tension, where they were clearly holding two emotional or two beliefs at the same time, like those kinds of insights are just like gold in terms of trying to get inside the mind of your potential consumer. And so there's no way a hypothesis-driven development approach could have helped me uncover that type of insight. To Alec's point, one thing we also did was we did do a little bit of rapid prototyping, where when we did receive a kind of kernel of insight, we were able to go and iterate on it very quickly. So going back to this idea of kind of a stand-up, a tool to help staff during their daily stand-ups, someone mentioned that, hey, we're having these daily stand-ups and we're trying to take notes, but we're really, between shift changes and this and that, nothing really, no loop ever gets closed. We, in the course of 2 days, prototyped a version of our core technology for that and tested it out, and were able to get feedback around what they wanted to see, what they didn't want to see, the manner in which a participant in that stand-up might adopt it, might not adopt it, the risks, all of this. So yeah, just to recap, it's not so much hypothesis driven, it's much more fundamental discovery, at least in my experience, and it also affords you an ability to do rapid prototyping.
And that was even before Claude Code got on the scene, right?
Oh my God, yeah. This was back when we had to hand code it, when I had to write on papyrus.
That's right. But at that point, I mean, I think we haven't seen anybody come through with now in the Claude Code era. So imagine like vibe coding, right beside somebody, and it's your user. Other questions?
Can I ask another one if it's not too? Yeah. So my focus area is mostly on Parkinson's disease, and one of the challenges we have is basically getting customer interviews and talking to people who are living with the lived experience of Parkinson's. Is any of the in residence facilities that you shared, do they have a big Parkinson's population that you know of, Michael?
Yeah, so yes, senior living populations always have people with Parkinson's living in them. That's the reason why they're in community living. So you'll find them just naturally. And then you'll find certain of our members have more formalized programs for brain health and for Parkinson's. So if you were to apply, I would basically underline that you do have that focus. And I'd want to bring you to a member that also has that focus.
One thing I'll add, so Mike represents primarily nonprofit senior living communities, and that is a huge boon when kind of doing this type of work. And the reason for that is for-profit communities optimize for a metric, a key metric, length of stay, and that's because they're mostly, they're kind of basically just apartments, right? And length of stay is equivalent to cash flow and monthly rent. Mike's constituents, his members, many of them operate at a different economic model, like a CCRC style economic model. And that means you're going to have a wider range of resident acuity and kind of a wider range of population to work from.
And CCRC is continuing care retirement community. So that's or sometimes called a life plan community, where you'll sort of go there in a cottage, and then as your needs progress, you'll progress through, and you never really have to leave the community, which is a big bonus. Other things is anybody of the audience, are they working more specifically on solutions for the senior living industry? And then is everyone pretty much primarily a clinical focus, or are you doing anything with a functional, cognitive? The domains that we are very interested here at LeadingAge is anything to do with holistic approaches to care, anything to do with more preventative cognitive health programs. The same with functional health, so giving people more personalized and proactive functional health programs. We're very interested in programs that address social isolation. And we're also very interested in programs that are more, I'd say, more quality of life based, like programs to kind of reinvigorate one's sense of purpose, programs to really connect someone to their spiritual center, whether that be yoga or Catholicism. When we think about older people and what really sustains them, generally when you get past 80, you're pretty much here because you want to be here. And the things that fill older people's cups are really the things that allow them to reinvigorate their sense of purpose when their body disappoints themselves. So volunteerism, environmentalism, these are all the things that you can find in senior living, but are informed by that sort of need for self-actualization or that opportunity for self-actualization. I'll also say this, within our business model, we are very, very interested in hub and spoke models. So how do we package up a holistic wellness program and deliver it to the many, many, many more people in the surrounding community that can't afford or do not want to live in a senior living community? What does that look like? How do we gather and interpret data that allow us to risk stratify somebody and pay attention to the right person at the right time? How do AI companion technology and sensor technology combine together to give us a picture of what's going on in that home? How do we use technologies to extend workforce? An incredibly important area for us. Some of the applicants that we've received so far go anywhere from someone who wants to look at all the different workflows in senior living and imagine where robotics can play a role, to someone that wants to really do the same in terms of transitions of care, but more from a family relation standpoint. We've got people that are doing preventative cognitive brain gym projects. And we also have people that want to deliver virtual experiences to people inside senior living. So there is no, we want to take a really broad approach to what innovation means. And again, we want to tell the stories about it, whether through some of the particular programs that I talked about, like preventative cognitive, or just in general to show that, companies get it, that they should be doing this co-creation. Other questions?
Hey, Mike, I noticed that you've got about 9 states listed on your list of places. And we have people interested in 14 or 15 different states that don't necessarily match up. So I'm wondering, as you continue to grow, could you say something about what are you looking for the institutions that are joining, and are you vetting them so that they can be the most hospitable to EIRs that want to have that experience?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Rose. Yes, so we are starting out this program through hand-selected member communities from our CEO. These are communities that are known to have innovative spirits and innovation programs. These are also communities that are very down to earth. So you're not going to walk into the community and see robots everywhere. These are people that are really looking to kind of grow the experience of senior living. We grow the program, so we have this initial group. That's what you saw. We are adding. So I'm going to be adding a larger member that does many communities in Nebraska and Iowa. We're going to be adding California soon. One of the things I'm doing out there with you, Alec, tomorrow. So with some of our communities in California. So yeah, we are growing this, but we're going to be growing this. Not just any member community can participate. They have to stick to their commitment. They have to, lay the groundwork for you to be in that community. And again, you will get to know them when you're on the calls with them. And if you don't have a good feeling about that community, you don't have to take that opportunity. I'll find you another one.
Thank you all for a wonderful presentation and for sharing this great opportunity. Everyone's got Mike's contact information. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out. We're very excited to have this offering for the A2 Collective pilot awardees, especially the more recent ones. Maybe can still take advantage of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So send mhughes@leadingage.org. And as we grow with the communities and with the experiences, we will be sharing that with the A2 Collaborative, and you can keep the members in touch about how we're doing.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.